When it comes to delivering an effective sustainability strategy, no company can operate in isolation, and at EY, we believe an ecosystem approach is fundamental. In fact, moving from a business to a stakeholder ecosystem is critical, one that integrates policymakers and consumers, as well as peers, competitors, and supply chain partners. So we've brought together the sustainability leaders from two of the world's biggest consumer companies to discuss.
Hi, I'm Jim Doucette. I'm with EY. I'm the Global Consumer Sustainability Leader.
And I'm Niki King with Unilever. I'm the Head of Sustainability for Unilever North America.
And I'm Pete Kraemer. I'm a Chief Supply Officer and Chief Brewmaster for Ab InBev.
Well, thanks very much for being here, Pete and Niki. It's great to have you. We'd love to talk a bit about some of the things you're seeing in sustainability and your roles. And in some of the work we've been doing with clients, we've seen things like, having CEO commitment, having a cross-functional dedication to sustainability, understand the agendas and some of the concerns that our colleagues in other areas of the organization will have. How have you seen in your organizations, how do you accelerate sustainability? I guess, Pete, we'll start with you.
When we set out on our goal to be carbon neutral, we defined what it is that we need to do within our company to reduce our emissions down to zero. So there's a lot of conservation there. There's a lot of engineering and technology, various things, and we know how to do it. So it's just a matter of getting those things done. When you talk about net zero, it gets a little bit more difficult because it involves more than just our own company. It involves everybody around us. And as large as we are and as many countries as we do business in, it involves many, many suppliers.
We have over 5,400 suppliers. But what we did last year is we launched the Unilever Climate Promise, where we asked all of our suppliers to commit to robust climate change action. So we asked them to commit to reducing their carbon footprint in half by 2030. We asked them to report on their progress transparently and publicly, and we asked them to share their product level footprint data with us.
And Pete, as far as collaboration goes for ABI, then, how do you prioritize? I imagine you have the same kind of fun problem of having many, many companies that you work with.
We started with the largest first. I'll give you an example, Ball Corporation, experts in aluminum. And their view on their process is very good. And they're able to offer a lot of value on how we can reduce our impact and slowly work towards net zero. So the collaboration is critical to getting there. And when you start with the largest suppliers first, they have more reach. And then eventually that information reaches the rest of the suppliers because everybody's working together and everybody's learning from each other.
Let's talk a little bit about policymakers and consumers. How are they involved in the process, the things you're trying to achieve?
At Unilever, we take a full, holistic stakeholder engagement approach. And with policymakers, I'll give you one example with EPR. We think that EPR is going to be, or extended producer responsibility, is going to be important to creating the infrastructure needed so that we can meet our robust packaging goals. So we've been advocating for consistent EPR policies across the states.
But if you look at what's happened with electric vehicles over the last 10, 15 years, 15 years ago it was kind of a dream, but then what happened is a series of focused technology development as well as then kind of legislative nudges, both positive and potentially negative, but all that working together as well as in building the infrastructure for electric vehicles, for recharging stations. It's kind of made it a reality. If you look at, that's the policymaker part. Then the consumer part is kind of remarkable. If you look at the Super Bowl this year, right, most of the car ads were about electric vehicles. So it's just a parallel we draw for our clients in plastic waste reduction, saying it can be done, but it takes working together, working with municipalities, and ultimately educating consumers. Because people love to hear a little bit about some of the things you have been working on about with policymakers and consumers.
Well, first of all, the example that you gave with electric vehicles, we benefit from that. Yes. So that collaboration makes its way over to our company because we have 250,000 trucks on the road all over the globe when you look. And any technology that is developed in that field, we get the direct impact and benefit from that. So that's a kind of collaboration that really helps us out as well. When you talk about consumers are very important in the equation. And when you ask your consumers what their preferences are and what they think about some of these technologies that we can use to get to net zero, The consumer wants to be part of the solution.
At EY, we field a future consumer index study 3 times a year, and we do it in 26 countries, 18,000 consumers. And we find when we separate on sustainability questions, the answers that millennials and Gen Z consumers give versus older, it's stark. And so, this is going to become, for our industry, the main buying public within the next generation. And if we're not fully sustainable, they'll do the work, and they will make choices based on sustainability.
And we see that now with our purposeful brands. We have about 30 purposeful brands, so everything from Hellmann's to Knorr, Ben & Jerry's, 7th Generation, so those brands with purpose at the heart. And what we see is they do grow tremendously faster than those brands that don't focus on sustainability.
Yeah, that's a great example. Pete, you've seen examples of that as well. What advice would you have for those organizations that aren't quite as far along, like how to get started, how to make progress?
Well, as we've expanded our reach because of net zero, we do find that some industries are further ahead than others. But by having a platform like Eclipse where we include all of our suppliers on the journey to get to net zero, it enables everybody to work together to solve the problem together and share each other's information. And those are available to you. All of a sudden, you can leapfrog and scale what already exists. And we see that happening across the entire value chain.
Yeah, that's great. Niki, I imagine the same for your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. And I get asked this question all the time, how do I start? And the answer is you have to start somewhere. So you really need to understand your baseline. Where are my carbon emissions? Which ones have the biggest impact? Set goals, get leadership buy-in, set up a governance structure, and allocate resources. Tap into that peer network. I think that's something that's essential. Last year when we launched our Climate Transition Action Plan, we saw that with our shareholders. It was pretty phenomenal. So this plan, we were the first global company of our size to launch a Transition Action Plan. And it really lays out what we mean by our goals, how we define them, and our pathway forward to achieving those goals. And we put this plan before a shareholder vote, and over 99% of shareholders voted in favor of that plan. And so that was clear that our shareholders understand the value creation and that sustainability does drive growth.
Yeah, it feels like all the forces are moving in one direction. What our shareholders want, investors want it, consumers want it. Well, with sustainability, it's interesting in that there sometimes can be barriers in organizations that think you have to. Being more sustainable is more costly for an organization. But our examples we've seen working with clients, that's not necessarily true. If you if you put a sustainability lens against a certain process area or a product, you can sometimes find wins to do things more cost effectively or more efficiently.
When we look back, when we started our goals years ago, and the companies have had sustainability goals for a long time, you really see the progress that we've been able to make. And so I'm very excited about the goals that we have on being net zero and also on carbon neutral, because I think when we all meet here again, if we meet here 10 years from now and we look back, we're going to see an incredible amount of progress.
I think the future of healthy business really is a healthy planet and a healthy society. And in order to achieve that, we're all going to have to be in this together, and it's just going to take a lot of collaboration to get there, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think I had one colleague recently say, the last decade's been about setting goals, understanding the metrics, and then determining the path forward. This is now the decade of action, and we're just at the beginning of it.